And in The Glory, where she played such a terrible, mean, truly evil bully. And then because I was in the My Glory kick, then I watched her in the Song Seung-ho movie called Obsession or Obsessed. You know what? I don't remember exactly. It's a Korean title, so I'm sure I got it wrong. But I thought that she is so good in all of the Korean dramas that I've been watching. And I also have to say that she can play very different characters. So the original character that she has gone through, it was a very poor, underprivileged girl who is now trying to date a very wealthy gentleman, kind of like, well, a rich bratty guy. And then from there, she went on to some other K-dramas. And I think My Windy Mipung, that was something where she was in the drama a long time ago. And I just recently got into that drama because I saw her again in The Glory and then Obsessed with Song Seung-hoon. So I was just looking up some of her K-dramas and I noticed that she was in this one. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. I think she's an excellent actress. And she again switched up the story, her character, and I really believe her as a North Korean defector. I think she's an amazing actress. Like, I truly believe when she's a mean bully. I believe when she's like not like, you know, a very poor, cute girl who likes a rich guy. And so, yeah, so I think she's a very believable actress. I think she embodies the character very well. And I started watching My Windy Mipung, which is about North Korea. And it started really well. It goes into her story as a child in Macau. Her family is of the kind of the more wealthy, privileged ranks of North Korea. So they were also in Macau, and they were in an area where they were living the wealthy lifestyle. But for some reason, and I didn't get into it, and I went all the way to episode 15, it doesn't say what happened. Oh, thank you. It doesn't say what happened with her family and why they didn't do so well in terms of the money and why they went to go escape into South Korea. So I was really surprised that, thank you for helping me achieve my goal. So I was really surprised where they just went and defected to South Korea because they were doing so well in North Korea. But I think something happened. So during the crossover, and I don't think anyone's going to be watching this K-drama. I do recommend it, but spoiler alert, the father and her brother died on the crossover. So that was really sad. I don't, I hear a lot of that happening in when people try to escape North Korea, is that, some people die, some people get captured, they're put into basically concentration camps where they're tortured and rehabilitated. I don't know for a fact, it's just something that was rumored and what I heard. So yeah, okay, so now back to the story. Somebody that they were bringing along with them, it's kind of like this much poorer girl in North Korea. She somehow is a friend of, her mother was a friend of the family of the mother, and she died of starvation because I think that happened to a lot of people in the late 80s, early 90s. There was this, I don't know how many million people died of starvation, but that happened. And so, yeah, I think that happened, and then trying to get centered because it's North Korea and there's a lot of things that happen and I don't want to get it wrong. So go and Google it or look up some historical information because what I'm going to say is not correct. So I don't want to mislead or misinform people. But so anyways, they escape. They have actually a very wealthy benefactor that they don't know about. So Mi Pung, who is Lim Ji Young's character, her grandfather is extremely wealthy, and somehow they have to reconnect for her to find her grandfather again. But there's miscommunication, there's lost information. So I think eventually, as in all K-dramas, they're gonna find each other. There's gonna get some resolution. But right now, she hasn't met up with the grandfather, although they're very intertwined with the story. So I'm very excited for them. The thing is that I started watching it and I thought it was your regular 16 episode K-drama. It's not. It's more than 50 episodes. So it's 53 episodes, 1 hour each. I'm only on episode 15. I don't know if I can commit to watching the rest of the series because there's other K-dramas out right now where I find it to be a little bit more fast-paced, more interesting, but I do love Lim Ji-yeon. I think that she's an amazing actress. I've now been watching a lot of her K-dramas. I know that she recently had another one, I think with Kim Tae-hee, Something in the Backyard. It's like some mystery, sinister murder mystery K-drama, and I think it's on Netflix, so I might watch that. I'm not sure. It's not my usual K-drama of happy, fun, cute K-dramas. This is way darker. It's about a murder and somebody decomposing in somebody's backyard. I don't know if I can watch that. It just seems too gory and creepy for me. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with that K-drama. I really like the lead guy too. He was in a K-drama of Return to Marriage or Go Back. It was actually called Go Back Couple with Jang Nara. Super cute. I highly recommend that K-drama. It's like 16 episodes, and Jang Gi-young was in it too, and it was like one of his first K-dramas that I really noticed him in, and he's kind of like the really attractive, stoic, handsome second lead. He didn't get the girl because they were the Go Back couple, and anyways, I highly recommend that K-drama. So yeah, I like the lead male as well, but I honestly don't think that I'm gonna be able to watch that K-drama to its ending just because it's way too long, and I don't know if I really am excited to watch that one. Hello. And so now I'm gonna just chat about my own experience in North Korea. So I did go to North Korea technically twice. One is, I think a lot of people have technically been on the North Korean side. So back in 2008, I went to the 38th parallel, which is where North Korea and South Korea meets. And so at that time, you could go into the joint security area. So the joint security area is those little blue buildings. I think there's 3 of them. And there's a lot of history behind it. It is a very serious place because people have been killed there because, I don't know, because tensions are very high between North and South Korea. Some of the things that have gone on there is some North Korean or South Korean at one point brought in a bigger flag, and so at the next time the other side brought in a bigger flag, and it kept going until it got to an obnoxious size flag. So then they decided, I think at some point, to stop the flag fighting, and I think it's back to normal size. The other thing that happened is somebody ran across the border. They were shot many times. It happened both ways, and I think if it's a North Korean, they're basically going to annihilate them. They're going to shoot to kill, and likely, and I don't know, but it's generational. So anyone who crosses over, the other extended family members, immediate family members, will also more than likely be taken into a concentration camp or a very really rough prison because I don't know, there's, I guess, somehow responsible for their family member trying to cross over, which is really sad. I mean, I wouldn't want to be responsible for other family members. I have some other cousins and aunts and uncles where, unless you're going to lock them down as a family, it's hard to monitor people's behavior. But I guess North Korea does. So anyways, and there's really hard feelings. I know that some US military people were shot because of some interaction, misunderstanding. And most recently, in this past summer, I think there was a gentleman who may have been going through some mental difficulties or some mental health issues, and he actually was being deported from South Korea back to the United States because of some misconduct in the US Army. He somehow escaped the airport. Then he jumped onto the tour for the joint security area. He went to the joint security area somehow, some way. He went there. He ran across the border. So right now, the joint security area, as I know from back in August 2023, a month ago, he's the reason why it's shut down right now. So you could go to the 38th parallel, and I think you can just kind of look at, the underground tunnel where North Korea tunneled into South Korea to spy. I went there as well, but you can't go into the joint security area. So that's where I went in 2008. You do have to bring your passport and a bunch of other stuff. It's very regulated just because it's such a high tension area. And when you go there, they give you a little bit more backstory. So the guards actually, they stand right in front of the building, and one eye is actually going into the other side. So they stand their body is covered by the building, and half of their vision is able to see into North Korea, which I thought was very interesting. And what else is interesting is they bring in their biggest guys. So these guys were all around 6 feet. There were no small South Korean military guys. Because I was talking to one of them for a little while. He spoke English very well because he was born and raised partially in South Korea. And then he spent a lot of his life in Los Angeles. So it was an LA guy, K-Town guy, in the joint security area because I guess he was just big enough to be, and he spoke English. So I actually had another friend who, similar profile. My friend is like 6'1", and he speaks English very well because he was going to college in the United States. And then when he went to do his military service in South Korea, they picked him to go to the 30th parallel. I don't know if he had to do the JSA duties. We never really got into it. I think that he really didn't enjoy his experience in the military. He was very miserable and he was very sad about it. So didn't really ask him too much about it. But my experience at the joint security area was kind of interesting. I went with one other friend. So I went with a group of girls, but the other girls didn't want to go to the JSA area. They were fine with going to the 38th parallel, looking at the underground tunnel, looking at the museum, but they didn't want to go all the way into the JSA. But me and one of my friends, we actually went all the way in, and we went to the building where we got a lot more explanation, actually from the LA Korean guy. And he was actually pretty funny. He was very attractive, regardless. So there was a line. I don't know if there was a demarcation line, but basically if you step into one part of the little blue room, you were technically in North Korea. So that was the first time I was in North Korea. It wasn't that big of a deal because you don't need actually you do kind of need a lot of paperwork just to get to the JSA. You had to have your passport, you had to fill out some information. It's a very secured area. So that was the first time I went to North Korea. The second time I went to North Korea was actually as part of a nonprofit organization. And I'm not going to speak about the nonprofit organization for privacy reasons to the client, as well as the people that I met during my trip there. So in North Korea, there was the paperwork to get there, you can 100% you can't go in without your proper documentation. When I say that I went to North Korea, people are like, oh, was it scary? It's not necessarily scary if you have proper documentation. And with the people that I went with, there are many individuals that go back and forth. I'm not going to say anything about the individuals or their direct circumstances because I know that I don't think anyone watches my channel, but you never know. When you say North Korea and somebody in North Korea, I don't think they Google. I don't know if Google is allowed in North Korea, but I think if they search the web, it may pull up. So I will not give out any information. But with the nonprofit organization that I went with, it was still dark. There is definitely a dark energy that encompasses North Korea, even if you're going as a visitor. I actually had my first major panic attack as an adult a month prior to going into North Korea. I don't know what happened, and it wasn't specifically because I was thinking about North Korea. It was just because I had a panic attack. I think that the energy is so dark in North Korea. There is something that kind of falls upon you. So, yeah. But also with North Korea, the paperwork is very dicey. Like, you don't know if you're actually going to go in. Some of the people that I was on the project with, they actually had failed paperwork several times, so they were not able to go in even when airplane tickets were bought, the visas were issued. They were at the front door. Not the front door, but they were at the immigration entry point to get into North Korea. But because of whatever the reason was, they were denied entry. So even if everything's stamped, everything is approved, everything's signed, there's a good chance that you might not be able to get into North Korea because of political circumstances, U.S. military doing exercises with South Korea, or for whatever reason. Maybe somebody was having a bad day and you're not going to be allowed entry. So yeah. And the dark energy was definitely there with the nonprofit organization. There was some stories, I'm guessing people could pull it, but some things that had happened on the China side, and it wasn't good, but you just have to have faith that the time that you're gonna spend there is gonna be worthwhile. And anyways, it was interesting. I gotta say, it was very interesting. There was a lot of meetings leading up to going in to North Korea. We went, and I just kind of made it a bigger trip. So the trip was China, going into the very northern part of China, then taking a van into North Korea. And we were dropped off to a certain point in the bridge of the Tumen River. And at that point, I think I don't even remember, because this was 2012, which is 13 years ago. And I think that we were just so unnerved and so highly anxious that some of my memory just isn't very clear. So I know that we had a flat tire. There was a whole bunch of other things for us to not get into North Korea, but we actually made it. I think even with the flat tire, even with the exchange of cars or vans, because there was 5 of us, we did make it into North Korea. The funny thing about going into North Korea, I don't know if I'm going to say the city name just to not give too much information away. So we made it into the entry point, and I've traveled into so many countries, so many different countries. This is the first time where the immigration was a small little building, literally a small little building, could have been like a 2-3 person office, where you go through the door, you get your paperwork checked, you walk through a little door gate, and then you're in North Korea. there's no fence, there's no border, there's just it's basically the bridge, a little tiny office, and then you're in North Korea. And that's after we made it to the other side of this little building, our minders, our guides, they picked us up. So the minder is your tour guide, and they have a minder. So the guy who's your tour guide, he's basically watching you the entire time that you're in North Korea. And then the driver, his partner, is also watching you, but he's also watching the tour guide. That's how, and I think that's why everybody is on very high alert in North Korea, because everybody's watching everybody else. I've heard that, there's people who will give information to their neighbors or family members to win favor from the government. So yeah, your entire time is monitored in North Korea. So just to give a highlight, back then in 2012, I believe Kim Il-sung, who was the original dictator, the grandfather, the person who brought communism into North Korea, it was his 100th birthday, or it was his 100-year anniversary. I don't know. It was something, and the whole country was preparing for his celebration. And Kim Jong-il, I don't think at that time he was still alive, because I think his son, Kim, whatever the current guy is, the guy with the very boxy haircut with, anyways, I forget his name. So it was the grandfather's, either his 100th birthday or his 100th anniversary of becoming dictator, not the father, but I think the grandson was currently in power as dictator. So anyways, we go in and we go to the town, and I'm not saying the town's name, and it was very interesting. It reminded me of the Wild Wild West, of what I've seen in like Bonanza and like the Westerns from the old Hollywood. Very rural. Like there are no cars. There are no cars. There's not even any real livestock. There's no horses like there would be in cowboy Westerns. It was just people. And the one thing that stands out in my mind is that there were no cars. There were sometimes you would see people walking on the road. And sometimes when you were walking on the road, because we were in the van, because we were on tour, they would try to wave us down to hitch a ride, because there was no public transportation. The one public transportation that was there at that time was run by a nonprofit organization from the United States. I don't know if it still exists because of the pandemic, and I think a lot of the nonprofits were pulled, not just for the pandemic, but for political reasons as well. Anyways, so it was very interesting. Like we got to tour a lot of the area that we were allowed to go. So we were never allowed to go anywhere that wasn't pre-designated. And if we wanted to do anything different, we would have to ask our tour guide or minder. So you're being surveillanced the entire time. Our hotel room was also surveillanced. So what was interesting about our hotel room, it reminded me of The Shining, which is Timberline Lodge up in Timberline, Mount Hood, Oregon. Also The Shining with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, which is the Stephen King book that turned into a movie. So it reminded me of that. I'm sure they did their best, but honestly, it reminded me of a haunted hotel. And it's not to say anything negative about the hotel. That's just what it reminded me of. That's the only thing. So we were on one floor and we were the only guests. The only guests. It was very much like The Shining. And then we were on the second floor. I think it went up to floor 5, because I don't think it stops at 4, because there is no 4 in Asian elevators and stuff. You can look that up. 4 isn't a good number in Korean. the way you say it. Anyways, so after our floor, when you look at the next floor, it was barricaded. Like, you do not go into that area. That's what one of the guys should have realized when he went into an area in Pyongyang hotel, and then he was captured for trying to take a flag. Don't do that in North Korea. Don't do anything illegal, or what could be construed as illegal. It's just improper. It's very poor manners, and yes, the consequences are very dire. Don't do anything like that. Anyways, back to the hotel. So the hotel, they gave us a 1970s looking TV that didn't work. And we also had a telephone that didn't work. Everything was very clean. My bed was like a twin bed that was wood and like a futon mattress on top of it. It was actually, it wasn't bad. Like, it didn't hurt my back like my $2,000 mattress is doing right now. That mattress was okay. It was definitely fine. And we only had electricity for, I think, 2 or 3 hours per each day. And I think they turned it on just for us. The whole time, okay, this might be gross for some people, might not be gross for others. We only had cold water when we were there. So I elected not to take a shower because I didn't want to have wet hair, because I didn't want to get sick in North Korea. The one pharmaceutical place that was there, it was run by a North Korean descent Canadian person. I think he's from Canada. So it was somebody from North Korea that went to South Korea during the war and then made it to Canada somewhere, I'm guessing in the 60s or 70s, became like a pharmacist or a doctor, then went to North Korea to I guess, build a pharmaceutical organization. But that person got disillusioned. I think the North Korean government took away his pharmaceutical plant. I don't know. That's what I heard. I heard if the North Korean government wants your property, they will just take it. So a lot of times, the nonprofit organizations, they will, if they're taken out of the place, they will try to take down whatever they brought in. I don't know. That's what I heard. I could be completely wrong. So yeah, anyways, we had some pretty good, interesting meals. Pyongyang naengmyeon is obviously super popular. It's their dish that they're known for in North Korea is the Pyongyang naengmyeon. Otherwise, the food, okay, we were never hungry, because my understanding is the North Korean, they're very hospitable, and they would never let their guests go hungry, because one, that's not being very hospitable-like, but also because they wouldn't want anyone to go back and say, yeah, I was underfed in North Korea. We were always very well fed. Some of it was potatoes from Finland. I don't know how they got Finnish potatoes, but it was in North Korea, and we were eating a lot of potatoes. And we also ate a lot of squid. Cow meat was not there. We ate a lot of squid and I think fish. I just remember a lot of potatoes, because it just blew my mind that there was Finnish potatoes in North Korea. Finnish as in from Finland. And what I also remember very vividly is a lot of dry squids on the rooftop and peppers. So they're dry, it must have been in season. So they were drying red peppers and squid were on the rooftops. The other interesting thing was there were stray dogs running around, just wild stray dogs. I don't know if they were friendly or not, because I'm not going to go up to a dog that I don't know. Because like even in the United States, dogs carry disease and rabies if they're wild. I mean, unless you have like a little pooch dog that's microchipped and, you know, very well taken care of, it's not a good idea to go up to stray dogs. So I do have pictures of a puppy, just because for some reason at one of the restaurants that we were in, our tour guide, he brought in like the tiniest little puppy, so tiny. I'm sure it was still with its mom. But yeah, very cute puppies. Oh, and we did eat hairy crab, which was very, I guess, a delicacy. They had raw oysters there. They were just shucking at this beach side. We went to the beach. We saw seals. That was fun. It was very interesting. They kept us entertained the best that they could. The one thing that I noticed that is so different, dramatically different from the United States, is that there are no mega Costco's, there's no Targets, there's no movie theaters, there's no malls. It's so beautiful in terms of natural resources, large areas of just vegetation, not farms, not people's, it's just grassy area, grassy trees. It's just not very well developed there. And I think that is a blessing as well, because it's not overrun with overdevelopment and city life. It's so naturally beautiful there. And I hear that it's just very rich in natural resources. I'm sure Russia wants it. I'm sure China wants it. If United States could, they would want it, but there's, we've sided with South Korea, so that's not happening. One of the things that I definitely remember is that they gave us a very nice entertainment with this children not entertainment group, but kind of like, I forget. It was some kind of thing where these little kids, they were putting on a show. One kid was like 4 or 5, and he was an expert drummer. I can't imagine how many hours of drumming that he had to do to get to that level of excellence. There were also Korean fan dancers. They were little girls that were like, I'm guessing, in elementary school. Beautiful show. Singing, just such a talented group of children. And we were specifically told to bring in candy for this group. And while it was very entertaining and it was very just cute, adorable children, the 4 other people, so it's 5 of us Americans, and we're Asian American. I'm sure if other like Caucasian American wanted to go, they might have been able to go, but it was 5 of us. We were crying so much during the performance. And I don't know why my colleagues were crying, but I know why I was crying. I was crying because I just felt so much repression and oppression. And these little kids, I don't know how many hours of training that they had to do, but my goodness, they were just so talented and just on the mark. So I know that it had to have been very strenuous rehearsals. So that's why I was crying. I'm just like, and then what made me even more down, just sad, is that when we went to congratulate them for their performance, when they smiled, their teeth were rotted out from the candy. So I guess every show they get a lot of candy, and there's just not maybe dentists there. And then what made me even sadder, and I'm sure the other tourists from China, they didn't do it to be demeaning or to do anything negative, but they were just grabbing the children and like taking them and taking pictures of them like they were dolls or trophies. It just, that also felt so uncomfortable, just so sad. So even though it was supposed to be a happy, entertaining thing, it just, my whole group cried, I think, the entire time. The school itself was very nice. When you went into the classrooms, you saw the 3 of them. So it was the grandfather, his wife, and then Kim Jong. So it was Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, Kim Il, Kim, Kim, I just forgot, Kim Jong-un. Anyways, the three of them are like the trinity. I guess that Kim Il-sung, the grandfather, the original dictator, he was somehow not mimicking, but he was doing it so that way he was, mimicking is not the best word, but he was mimicking the Holy Trinity. So the Father, the Son, and the Virgin Mary. That's what's in the classrooms. That's what the mimicking is. I could be wrong. I could have been told the wrong information. So don't go by with what I'm saying, and everything that I'm saying is just from my memory from many years ago, and I could be wrong. So don't take anything that I say. And then, yeah, so the food actually was pretty good. I really liked the person that was hosting us. He was very personable. His English was impeccable, I must say. And there are some other memories that I hold very fondly of that time and my visit there. But I'm not going to go into it because of privacy reasons. So it's just, they were just such an amazing group of people, and they have such a heart for North Korea. And I do hope that eventually they will be blessed. Anyways, moving on. So, so North Korea, very interesting place. And I've seen other K-dramas that are linked to North Korea. One is the Lee Seung-gi one, where he was a king of South Korea, so it's totally make-believe. And then there was a famous Korean actress, and she was a military female from North Korea, and they somehow fell in love. I actually didn't watch that one. I'm not as into that one. And then, of course, Taegukgi, I think, is a very famous Korean movie with, I think, one of my favorite actors, Won Bin, and Kim Dong. Anyways, another famous Korean actor, and it was about the South Korean, and they were kind of near the 38th parallel. Oh, I really like Won Bin. He's one of my favorite Korean actors. He's so talented, and he has such a presence. I think I really like his energy that comes across in movies and in his K-drama. The last one that I really remember him in was Autumn Love Story with Song Seung-hoon and Song Hye-kyo. So long ago, like literally 20 plus years ago. I guess this guy does so well in his movies. The last one that I saw him in was Ajashi. So yeah, he's a very good actor. But that's kind of my time in North Korea. There wasn't that interesting, okay, one of the interesting things is they will go through your photos. And you have to take the photo with the entirety of the titling of the whatever you're taking a picture of. So if there's any type of wording, it has to show everything. And also, if it's a statue or a monument, you have to take the entire picture of the statue or monument. You cannot cut off any part of it. I think they probably had some bad things happen where only partial words were given, so it might have said something that they didn't intend for it to say. So it makes sense. I mean, it's a communist country. And I saw a lot of anti-US propaganda while I was there. It was very Russian kind of feel, old communist China feel. Everything almost felt like it was from the 1950s or 60s. It was like time had stopped. Some other cool things that I remember is we went to their version of a swap meet or their exchange where you buy stuff. And I remember very distinctly, like, this young girl was asking her mom for a cute outfit. And that's where I knew everyone anywhere is almost the same. So it was just like if she was at the mall in LA asking her mom for a cute new, like, I don't know, bag or something. It was a cute little girl in North Korea asking her mom for a new pair of jogging pants. And it was very interesting because some of the products, because I was looking at the products and it looked like Vietnamese products, which makes sense because Vietnam is also another communist country. It just looked very older style. Another thing that I was able to do is get a massage in North Korea. So it reminded me of a South Korean massage. And so the colleagues that I went with, they didn't want to do it because they said that it was so outlandish, the cost. I'm like, regardless of whether you're going to do it or not, I'm going to do it, because who else is going to say I got a massage in North Korea? It was $60, which I'm sure would more than total someone's yearly income in North Korea, but I don't care. I now have a story that I got a massage in North Korea, and it's very interesting in my brain. I don't know about anyone else's brain, but I thought it was very interesting. So again, it was almost like it was not a typical massage table with the hole. It was almost like a wooden board. I almost feel like they took a door off of something, they stuck it onto a makeshift table and put like a thin blanket or like a very thin thing, and you're just kind of there. But I had a very nice conversation with the massage lady. She was wearing a very medical kind of like nursing outfit, and she said she had trained for 3 years to do this, and she was like, massaging my stomach. It wasn't the best massage. It was just more for like the experience, and it was just very interesting to talk to her, and like, we did not get to talk to most of the North Koreans. There was very few interactions. We were very limited. We were very much there was a lot of surveillance on us. Our rooms were being monitored with bugging devices. I heard some of the other groups that had gone in, they were almost kicked out because of some of the conversations that they had in their room and trying to persuade their tour guide with conversations. Just don't be impolite to your host. Don't do anything where you know that they're going to be upset about. I mean, certainly there might be one-offs, but just try not to actively do anything to offend the government, especially when you're being watched, And the other thing that I thought was, there were a lot of cool things, well, I don't know, cool, but there were a lot of very interesting things that they took us to. I really liked the hiking. And when you went hiking, you went into a mountain area where there was still presence of what happened during the North-South Korean War, bullet marks, different propaganda. They had saved certain trees that had been marked by war activity. A lot of propaganda against the United States. I just don't think I will ever go back until North Korea is free from the dictatorship. Like, the government can do whatever they want. I'm just saying that I just would not do anything. So then the guys, they actually went and got a haircut at a North Korean barbershop. Like, I'm sure they're one of the very few, extremely few, except if you're Russian or Chinese, because I saw a bunch of Russian and Chinese while I was in North Korea. Not a bunch, but they were the only other people that were there. There were no other Americans. There was just a handful of Russians, because I don't know, I guess some Russians want to go to North Korea to tour. And there were some Chinese. Like this one lady was in a mini skirt. I'm like, who is in a mini skirt in North Korea? We were told very specifically what to wear in North Korea. And when she spoke, she was obviously from China. I don't know if she was a hoochie. She kind of looked like a hoochie. I don't know if there's some hoochies and Chinese hoochies in North Korea, but that was interesting. So yeah, that happened. So they went to the barber shop. So what I thought was interesting, they were like, oh, do you want to get your hair cut too? I'm like, no. You got to pick from 15 pictures, and so that reminded me just now of the recent Crash Landing on You with Hyunbin. Oh my gosh. So when she saw the pictures and you could get the morning curls of the dictator or whatever, like you got to pick from 15 or 20 different hairstyles, and that's it. There was no colors. There was the guy, because I had my hair highlighted, he thought my hair just grew out of my head that way. I guess he didn't think like anyone would spend money to get their hair highlighted. I mean, yeah, it didn't look that great. I can't even imagine now what he would think with my blue purple hair. But anyways, so the guys went and did the barber thing, and what I was shocked with is that, okay, it was cold water, of course, because I don't think that they have hot running water there. And this was many years ago. It could change, but at the time there was no hot running water there. And so they got a cold water shampoo. They got the haircut, not with clippers because there's no electricity, just like scissor haircut. But what was so crazy is they had a straight edge shave. So it's a straight edge knife doing the shaving, but they didn't just shave from here to here, the neck to the nose. They shaved it all the way to the hairline. So they actually got their forehead, their entire face shaved. So like the microblading that women do now, they do that in North Korea. So that's like, they're very progressive in that way with their beauty methods. So yeah, the guys said that they were just sweating, and it was October and they just had cold hair wash, but they were sweating because they were having a straight edge knife held to their neck. And it was very obvious that the regular people, just the citizens that were there, they did not like our presence. They told us to stop talking because we were speaking English. So the girls sat there in silence. They were staring at us. We were staring at them. It was very interesting. I think I didn't necessarily like the aquarium tour, the museum tour, or the horticulture tour. We did that. No, it was just. I'm not going to poo-poo it. I'm not going to say anything negative, but I guess we went because we went there. But, oh my gosh, whenever we got to see the citizens, my gosh, I just felt so grateful for that experience. Like there was this old harmony and she was selling like, I don't know, popsicles to these little grade school kids. And the only reason why we got to see that is because the day before I had begged the tour guide to get permission for us to go and look at people rehearsing for the 100-year celebration. He wouldn't have just taken us there. So he got permission. In case anybody is watching this, he didn't do it without permission. Everything we did was above par. That's a golf reference. I don't know if I said that right. Anyways, so everything we did was by the book. And yeah, I actually did like going out to see the seals on the boat ride. And the only reason why I like that is because we saw the seals and we got to interact with this group of ladies that were, for some reason they had this whole tub of oysters and they were shucking it. And I guess maybe they were getting ready for, I just now thought of it, maybe they had a restaurant there because it did kind of look like a restaurant. I'm not sure. So they were opening fresh oysters right next to the ocean, and they were locals, and I'm sure we had permission, so nobody get in trouble. Yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool. It was a great experience. We had barely any interaction with any locals. So every time that we did, I was very much felt blessed. And I would say, even with very little presence of the third parties that go in, I feel like we're bringing light into North Korea, and it will be blessed. So yeah, that was my time in North Korea, and then we went back into the China side. So we actually stayed 2 nights in, so we stayed there for 5 days, 2 nights in near the city, and then 2 nights in a more different area, I'm not gonna say. And there was a beautiful hotel, and there was this other place that we stayed at, and actually, I don't know, beautiful. It was nice. It was brand new. And there were a lot more Chinese, and I'm not going to say anything about that activity, but it was different, and we had more electricity at that second place. I think because of the Chinese and whatever they were doing. So yeah, it was very interesting. And I saw more goats and different things, and I gotta say that the people who go to North Korea as third parties, or for whatever reasons, I know that they have a very good heart, and they are trying to bring in blessings. So that is my time in North Korea. Then we actually went, and we were in the van for a really long time, and then we went to a place where we got to see Russia, China, and North Korea all at one point, because it was very, I don't know, I'm sure it was prearranged. It was part of the tour. And then I think it's Kumgansan. It's Gold Mountain. There's some history there, and I think like at some point it's supposed to help unify North and South Korea. I'm not really sure. All right, and that kind of wraps up my North Korean time. And then I also did go to China, where I had the best egg tart at Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC, what it's called now. And I actually was chatting with somebody else who also recently posted an egg tart from KFC. We both hands down agree that it is the best egg tart ever. So I definitely highly recommend, and it's not just near North Korea. I think if you go to any KFC, they have the best egg tart in China. I don't know. It's deep fried. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they flavored it. I don't know. It's so light. It's so crispy. It's so flavorful. It's the right texture. It's just the best egg tart that I've ever had. I still think about it. It's 2012 that I had it. I only had one. And it's now 2023. So it's been a good 11 years. And it's still very top of my list, if not the best egg tart I've ever had at KFC. Who knows? So then I also got a massage in China too. I wish I could have got more. And then I went to South Korea, Seoul. So the difference between North and South Korea, upon going into North Korea or China, you look over, there's no lights. There are times I had a panic attack in North Korea because I woke up, or I couldn't even go to sleep. I couldn't see anything because there's no light. There's no even alarm clock light. There's no kitchen clock light. There's no lights. There's no lights from your cell phone because there's no light. There's no clock. There was no working clock. Oh my God, I'm still like super excited or nervous about that moment. I stumbled to the window, and when I opened up the window, there was still no lights because no house, no buildings had electricity. So there's no lights anywhere. There's no cars. There's no lights. The only reason why I calmed down is because one, I didn't want to wake up the colleague. She was fast asleep, so I didn't want to wake her up with my panic. But I did see either a moon or a star, or maybe a couple stars in the moon, and that actually made me feel calmer because I could finally see light. That was a dark moment, literally and figuratively. But, okay, so that was North Korea, zero lights, very little electricity. But going into South Korea, it's all lights. Seoul is like lit up like a Christmas tree. It's crazy. The funny thing about I'm going to speak more about my South Korea trip on a different thing because I think this has gone on very, very long. But on my trip to South Korea, I also got I was getting massages in South Korea pretty much every day from a very nice location. Nothing seedy. It was not seedy. I do not get happy massages. I just get massages because my body hurts. So then, got a massage, very good, totally different style. This girl was much bigger than this North Korean girl. Actually, that reminds me, when I was in North Korea, the people, most of them were very small because of the famine and because of the malnutrition and for not having a very good or US standard of diet. I mean, maybe for them it's fine. Maybe they like being smaller. I like being taller and a little bit, I don't want to be bigger, but I definitely like being taller. So, but then there were there's definitely a few North Koreans where they're over 6 feet tall. There was a lady at the hotel. I know she's from privilege because one, she's working a very nice job. The second is she's 5'10". She towered over me and she looked very well sturdy built. So she must have not gone through any type of hardship. Or no, I don't want to say that. Physically, she was very healthy. She did not have any kind of stunting due to famine. There were a few other men that were also pretty well built and tall, so they also must have had some type of privilege during the famine years because they were also fairly big size. The other thing is like, you could walk in the middle of the street. There are no cars, so you could pretty much spend hours just roaming right in the middle of the freeway because no cars. But every once in a while, I would see like a Mercedes or an Audi. One time I even saw a very new, very not tricked out like LA style, but a very nice Range Rover. I'm like, where are they getting Range Rovers in North Korea? I'm pretty sure it's the China, like someone from China who had money that came over. Yeah. Those are just some random thoughts of my faulty memories. So if anybody who is watching this who might be monitoring for North Korean activity, I don't remember anything very well. This is from very just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. So I don't remember very clearly. So I wouldn't be able to remember or think about what had happened way back then. But I do have very nice memories of it, and I do want to bless the people of North Korea. So that's kind of the end of this episode. But yeah, My Windy Mipung, I don't think I'll ever watch it. But speaking of North Korean, South Korean K-dramas, Crash Landing on Me was so good, so amazing. I think that it's definitely on Netflix, and I know that a lot of just general people, not even Koreans or Korean Americans or Asians, love that K-drama. So I definitely highly recommend Crash Landing on You with with Hyunbin. So good. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I do appreciate it. I hope to have another K-drama, I don't know, upload soon. I just don't know when. My body hurts and I'm really tired a lot, so who knows when that will happen. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.